presentation to the board in December of just, our year-end audit, just, the real fun stuff that you guys love coming to the board meeting about, care about kindergarten continuance forms. All right, so this is basically nuts and bolts the year as it was. We had $57 million in revenue, $47 million in change expenses, and a fund balance increase of $10 million. This is, largely due to the massive carryover in the LCAP. So that accounts for more than half of that fund balance increase is that unspent LCAP funds that we have now carried over into this year's LCAP with new actions, updated goals, all of that fun stuff. And this is a little bit more detail on what the revenue is. 57 million was our total. This is a combination of both our restricted and unrestricted revenues. Restricted includes our categorical, so our Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, COVID funds, special ed. So all of those restricted funds that, yes, we got the money, but we have specific things that we need to spend it on. ADA is, for last year, was still based off the hold harmless prior to COVID. So it was at 3,011.56. And then our beginning fund balance at the start of last year was 7.5 million. And we adding in that 10 million from the previous slide puts us at a ending fund balance as of June 30th of 17.7 million. There's a little deeper look at revenues. For this chart, I used our unaudited totals here in this column here. So this is this column in the middle is everything that actually happened. Second interim is the projection as of March 15th presentation of where do I think we're going to be come the end of June. I was kind of right, but very wrong on the other state revenue. We received a lot more after our second interim, with $1 million of that being the ELLP grant that the state partway through the year decided to change up how they were going to do some COVID funds. And another 600,000 of that is part of the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, which is a multi-year resource for teacher trainings and paraeducator training. The fun part, the expenditures. Overall, last year compared to this year, we increased spending across the board. For salaries, we had raises up the off schedule. We tried to increase supplies with all of the COVID funds as much as possible, increase services. Some of that is due to having contractors for the SPED teachers, things like that. We've increased the capital outlay, again, trying to utilize one-time monies on, things like vans for transportation and stuff so that we can facilitate both home to school transport as well as the extracurricular activities. For 21-22, salary and benefits make up 81.6% of the expenditures. Here is the expenditures. With this is the slide I had the most trouble with of how to convey the information as normally as possible, and asking an auditor if this looked okay was a bad idea because she already knew what I was talking about. So not really my target demo. But over here where you see negatives, this is where the numbers in red are really okay. Unaudited actuals exceeded what the expectation was back in March. So hopefully that makes sense of negative number here. Good, I guess. I don't want to quantify it, but red bad. to really work on those English skills I've developed over the years. But largely here you can see that significant amount was budgeted and expected in books and supplies, and largely did not happen, and that is partially the LCAP and partially having the ESSER 3 plan and still working our way through the joy of trying to buy something in April and not seeing it until next September. So as we cross fiscal year and everything like that, there's encumbrances and everything that aren't accounted for in there. This is our ending fund balances for our other funds outside the general fund. All in all, not a whole lot different than it has been the last couple of years with adult ed, deferred maintenance, the special reserve, and capital outlay being really the only thing that's happened in there is they've accrued interest. Cafeteria, we ended this last year slightly higher than the prior year. And then in our capital facilities, so this would be our developer fee. So the new construction that happens and we get money for that and people doing additions onto their homes. That's down a little bit compared to a year ago, but there was a lot more activity at West Park at the start of last year the start of I keep saying last year when I mean 2 years ago at this point. Then there was during 21-22, and then our state facilities fund is Fund 35. That is the reimbursement for Roseman Elementary construction that is been earmarked for the cafeteria at the high school. So as of June 30th, got a little bit over $7 million there. That is the end of my presentation.
Yes. Robert, I'm just curious. The Fund 35, I heard you mention earlier that these funds are collecting a little interest. Do we know at what percent of interest Fund 35 is collecting? I'm sure it's not a huge number.
I'm gonna venture a guess of less than 2%, but
Okay.
that's solely a guess. I haven't looked at the county treasurer's website to verify any of that. But it's somewhere between 1% and 2%.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. So, motion?
I'll second.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next one, B, approve resolution 22-23-04, GAN limit. Mr. Irving.
All right. So this is an annual resolution that, as simply as I can put it, trying to go through the wonderful legalese of 1979 legislation, limits the amount of funding that a California government agency, so school district in our case, can spend from state and local taxes, so that we're not unnecessarily spending tax surplus. So this past year, our the limit we had was $32.19 million of proceeds from taxes. That was our limit. What we received as a district for property taxes about $7.8 million. So we're not really anywhere in the ballpark of running afoul of this, where ultimately it's a legislative tool that will keep districts from spending beyond an appropriated limit, and then if we do, then there's recourse about following years state appropriations. So
Motion's been signed.
second.
Mr. Bender, all in favor?
Aye.
business and operations continue. Approve resolution number 22-23-05, educational protection account. Mr. Aaron?
Alrighty. Something that makes slightly more sense than the GAN limit to me, frankly, I just don't understand, is the education protection account. This is for us. It's resource 1400 and it falls into unrestricted monies, even though it does have restrictions. So this is another annual resolution of how specifically or do we plan on using our education protection account? And that is what this one sheeter that you may or may not have, I think you have, that the only thing the district utilizes these funds for is teacher salary. There are restrictions on how the funds can be used, but teacher salaries is really the big thing that it was designed and earmarked for. So.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approve the following list of personnel items. Mrs. Haggis?
These are a list of hires, resignations, and so we just ask that you approve those.
I had a question.
Yes.
What's this role, the home hospital teacher? What is that?
So what those teachers do is, so we have students that cannot come to school, they're pretty much confined to their home. So they go to those homes one day a week for an hour to teach them at home. I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion from Sunny.
Second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
3 ayes.
Can I ask one more question on that? Are they nurses?
No, they're teachers.
They're teachers?
Yeah, and it's a pool of teachers, so we don't always have, we might have one student on home hospital, or we might have 3 or 4. And so it's just a pool of teachers that are willing to
To go through that?
go and teach students at their house.
So we obviously have students that are in that condition right now.
It's usually a medical reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Do we want to get out of here?
make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, he did. 3 with 2 absent. You second it. All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. Hey, I made it in under an hour.
That was fun. I like one ball, please.